A few weeks ago, I made a video that was titled Owner-Operator Cost of Forestry Mulching, and it was for cutter teeth specifically. And I got a lot of response from that, a lot of comments, a lot of questions, a lot of emails of people really curious about really the details of forestry mulching, but also the owner-operator costs is a generic business kind of thing. It's a way of figuring out your costs for any kind of business that you're in when you're purchasing equipment. And the biggest thing is to know what your bottom line is as far as what you should charge per hour of owning a piece of equipment, so you can recoup that cost in a business. But it's not just for business either. It's even if you're a farmer and you're looking to buy a piece of equipment, maybe a tractor or some other piece of equipment. It's important not just that you can afford a piece of equipment, but you want to know your costs. So what I'm going to do today is talk more in detail about owner-operator costs worksheet, some of the details that go into it, and kind of explain it in a little more detail, just using kind of generic numbers for a forestry mulching type machine. And hopefully it'll help some people out. So what I'm going to talk about is today, just so the video is not that long, is just the ownership costs. And at some later time I'll make, if there's enough interest and people want to see some detail like this, I'll do the other part of the worksheet as far as the operating costs. And just for those out there who are interested in forestry mulching, all this area here, this is just an aside before we get going here, is this was a forest. This is my land. So this was a forest before. That you can barely walk through. It was so thick. But this is what a forestry mulching operation can do for you, for your land, or for your customers. But anyway, we're just kind of do this. It's going to be a little geekish. We're going to do this contract style, just using a tablet of paper. So we're going to go over the owner and operator cost worksheet. A lot of people are asking me, what's the best advice about getting into this kind of business? But it's really getting into any kind of business is the first thing you have to do is to know what your costs are going to be. So this kind of thing takes a lot of homework in forestry mulching. So you have to figure out what is your mission going to be? What do you want to accomplish with your business? What's the focus of your thing going to be? So, and then you would look and see what equipment you need that's going to be needed and required to accomplish what you're trying to do. So knowing your costs is my number one biggest advice to give people. And probably the second thing, once you know your costs, is to figure out your break-even point, or your BEP. So whatever your costs come out to be, you could be able to figure out your monthly costs that you have to get to break even, or your yearly costs. So that's my second biggest piece of advice. Figure out what equipment you're going to need. Figure out all the costs associated with working that piece of equipment. And then from there, you'll be able to figure out how much revenue you're going to have to generate on average per month to cover the costs of your equipment and any other things associated with that, like employees and insurance and all that kind of thing. So once you know your break-even point, then I get a lot of questions on, I'm not sure if I have enough customers out here. Well, I can't help you with that, but That's where homework comes in, and it's just something that you're going to have to do your homework on in your specific area. This is a land clearing kind of business, so any place that people own 1-2 acres or more around their homes or businesses or farms, those are going to be the customers. So there are similar things that methods people use to clear land, and that's like a good place to start, is to figure out, normally there's only so many ways to clear trees and brush from land. People have access to bulldozers, track loaders, things like that. So if you figure out what those kind of people are charging to clear land, or talk to a builder, ask them what they normally pay to clear some size of land, whether it's a half acre or an acre, and kind of get a general idea of what people are willing to pay in your area. And that'll give you a good ballpark to compare your costs to what people are willing to pay in your area. So as far as advice, that's probably my biggest advice to getting started. And those are generic things to get started in any kind of business. Some things to consider, and this is totally depends on your financial kind of situation, is whether to buy the equipment and own it versus leasing the equipment. So each one has its advantages and disadvantages. So that's purely up to you to talk to dealers. Once you figure out what equipment you need, say you're going to buy a Bobcat or a Cat or a Kubota or whatever, to go and start pricing things, and price them apples to apples, same size equipment, same options and all that kind of thing. And what I did is I asked the dealers to give me a leasing price if I was going to lease it for 3 years. And you can lease for 1 year to whatever the specific company will let you do. 1 to 3 years they can lease you equipment, and that has a certain price on it. Say for like a Bobcat, it might be $1,500 a month. But it varies too much for me to talk about specifics in leasing. But once you decide on the size of equipment you need, say some type of skid steer with a forestry mulcher, go to dealers and just ask them to give you a quote on what it would cost to lease it, and if you're going to finance it, what it would cost to own it. So it just comes down to simple math, figuring those things out. The next thing to think about when you're talking about this before you buy equipment is the tax time. Right now, under current tax laws, if you lease a piece of equipment, you can write off different things than if you own a piece of equipment. For instance, if you lease a piece of equipment, what you can write off is, and I'm not a tax attorney or anything, I'm just saying from old Dave Clevinger's experience, but so if you pay $1,500 a month on a lease, you can write that off for the year, whatever that adds up to, $18,000 off of your revenue or income, business income. If you owned it and you purchased it, you get some other tax advantages like depreciation, okay? And current tax laws are, with a piece of equipment, you can depreciate it over 5 years. So just in round numbers, if you bought a $100,000 piece of equipment, divided by 5 years, that's about $20,000 in depreciation costs alone. And there's other things. So there's advantages and disadvantages of each way of doing this. It just really depends up to your financial situation and kind of doing a little bit of homework on this. And, it just comes down to math and figure out what's the best economic decision for you. So, the Owner-Operator Cost Worksheet. it's kind of broken down into a couple of sections. This is just a general thing. So you're going to have owner costs. Owner costs are things like insurance, what you're paying on your bank loan, what you're paying on your lease, things like that, that you're going to have to pay every month regardless if you run the machine at all. Okay? You're going to have, these are kind of like fixed costs from the accounting kind of verbiage, but so you're going to have your owner costs, then you have your operating costs, which are things like your fuel that you're going to use when you're working, parts that you're going to need, oil, lubes, hydraulic fluids, tracks, teeth, all those things that are kind of wearable items or consumable items that you're going to use up, and those are of kind of a variable cost that change by how much you use your machine. And then the third part of figuring out owner-operator costs are kind of like your administrative costs, like overhead, how much you're going to pay an operator, what percentage of profit you want for your business. And these things are all have to go in to your bottom line cost per hour. So things like overhead, if you have a shop that you need to operate out of, things like that, if you have business insurance, those kind of things, if you have employees and you pay your unemployment comp, stuff like that, those are all overhead costs that get added into this. Of course, your operator pay, whatever you plan on paying operator, if you have an operator. And then percent profit. Figuring out percent profit is easy. You just take all these costs, add them up, and multiply it by whatever percent of profit you want. Whether it's 5%, 10%, 50%. Just multiply these numbers, multiply it by your percent profit that you expect, and that'll give you your total cost per hour that you need. And I'll show you how to do that in a sec. So then from the total cost an hour, you can figure out your total cost per year, that everything is going to cost you to run a machine. And from that total cost, that's where you figure out your, that's going to be your break-even point. So cost per year divided by 12, that's how much you need to make every month on average to break even as a business. And that's the whole idea of owning a business, is to at least break even, but hopefully make a profit that you could live on. Okay, so what I'm going to just talk about are ownership costs in this video. So we'll do the operator costs later. So we'll just get started with this. So a couple things, and at any time you can come back on this video and pause it if you want to kind of copy the information I have down, because these are going to be the actual ownership costs. What I have here is a T770 mulcher. It could be any kind of machine that you have, whether it's a truck. Over here I put my truck. I add my truck into my business costs because I need my truck to pull my mulcher. So for me, in my business, both of these costs go into my cost per hour, because I want to recover those costs so things pay for themselves. So anyway, but you can pause the video anytime and copy these things down or make a spreadsheet on your own or whatever. But so the first thing you want to do is estimate its ownership period in years. So I use 3 years for my stuff. The reason I use 3 years is because I like to keep my machine on a warranty, and the most warranty I can get, like a full warranty that covers all the parts, like bumper to bumper, is 3 years. So after 3 years, I plan on, I'm on my second machine now, so after 3 years I traded in. You don't have to do that. That's just what I do for my business. You can keep yours for 5 years, or you can keep it forever. It's whatever you want to do. But pick a period of years. I picked 3 years for both the machine and the truck. Second thing is to estimate the amount of usage in hours per year that you think you're going to use your machine for business. Now, this is a total swag. It's a total guess of how many years you're going to use, or how many hours a year you're going to use your machine for business. In this particular case, forestry mulching. So I'm just using, round numbers, generic kind of numbers. These aren't necessarily my numbers, but just to give you an idea, so when we get doing some math, we have some numbers to work with. You might do 200 hours a year. You might do 1,000 hours a year. That's totally up to you, your market, and your circumstances. So the number we want to come up with then is the ownership usage. So we want to multiply the first two, 3 times 500, to come up with ownership usage, okay? So that's usage for the 3 years that we want to try to recoup these costs, okay? And again, you can use whatever numbers fit your specific circumstances, but these are, whatever numbers you use, these are part of it, figuring out your cost, so you have to do it as part of the worksheet to figure out an accurate cost. And I should say, as you're going through this, if you have no clue on some of these numbers, the best thing is to be realistic. Don't make up numbers that you hope to do, or don't pull numbers out of thin air. Try to base them on some kind of information and homework that your numbers come out relatively accurate. And if you do start a business and do it, what I do is I go back each year and refine my numbers. I have all this. I have my owner-operator costs on an Excel spreadsheet. So each year I'll go back and refine my numbers. If I did 700 hours a year, I'll change my numbers. If my insurance went up or down, I change my numbers. If I'm using more fuel, things like that. I mean, I adjust my numbers to be accurate. And accurate numbers are, if you're in a competitive area, you want to know what your numbers are so you can be competitive. Okay, so over here, these are going to list the actual items that are contained in owning and operator costs. And we're going to go through 6 of them. And I'll just show you the basic, the idea, the concept to get to the cost per hour number, okay? So that's what we're shooting for. So the first thing is the delivered price of the piece of equipment. So generally speaking, this includes for the machine, and I'm talking any kind of skid steer with a mulcher, pick a number. This is done by homework. Go talk to a dealer, figure out what this number is, okay? I'm just going to use 110,000 because that's generally the price. That can be anywhere from 90,000 to 120,000, depending on what kind of machine, what kind of skid steer you get, and what kind of forestry mulcher head you get. Of course, truck costs are totally up to you, what kind of vehicle you're going to use. I'm just going to use a round number of 50,000 for a heavy-duty truck to pull a trailer with this equipment. So again, the first thing, the actual bottom dollar of your quote that you paid for your machine is the first item. If you're going to add a truck or whatever kind of service vehicle you're going to use, add that in there if you want to add your truck into your costs. Now again, I trade my equipment in, so this isn't this $110,000 number isn't the price that I have to get to, because after 3 years I'm going to trade it in, and I'm going to get some amount for my equipment and trade-in. So the number we're going to be working with is the net value to be recovered through work. So this $70,000, using these numbers, and this is just the trade-in value from what I paid is $70,000. So for the amount of money that I spent, this is the amount of money that I've got to divide into my hours and into my years that we're going to use to come up with my cost per hour numbers. So the net value is your trade-in value subtracted from what you paid for the equipment, okay? And that will give you the cost per hour. And here's the basic formula. It's net value, which is this number, over the total hours, which on the other page I used 500. So 70,000 divided by 500 hours gives you $46.67 per hour. Okay, so all of our numbers over here, we're going to boil them down to cost per hour. Okay, so just buying the equipment and or buying a truck or a tractor or a zero-turn lawnmower or a wood chipper, whatever equipment you get, this all works the same. And this is the formula for again coming up with the cost of that equipment just for the price. Okay, and again, trade-in minus what you paid gives you this number, and divided by the hours that you picked. I picked 500 hours, and it'll give you this number. Okay, but this is the basic formula how every cost is going to work. So it's all the same. Interest costs. Now, interest costs in this case, you may use it on your worksheet, you may not, but interest is basically if you purchase your equipment for your delivered price, okay, that's what it's delivered at. Then you have to finance it. So, you're going to pay a certain amount of interest. And I didn't put any numbers here because that can just vary too much to be specific here. But whatever it is on your financing documentation after you do purchase it, or when you're researching it and you're figuring out how much this stuff costs. But just generally, if I financed $110,000 at 3%, that'll come out to about $3,300 over 3 years. Okay, divide that by 3 to get how much interest you pay in 1 year, and then divide it by the hours per year. I hope that makes sense. But it's pretty simple. Again, interest is not counted in your delivered price, so you want that as a kind of a hidden cost that you want to recover in your cost per hour, because you are paying that. It's coming out of your pocket. So, but again, this is this basic formula again. Cost per year over hours per year. Okay, and come up with a number. The next one is insurance costs. Again, we're going to use the same kind of formula. The cost of your insurance per year divided by the hours per year. On a skid steer type machine of this size and all this stuff, I use the number of $1,900. If you have a bigger machine, a smaller machine, and depending on what it is, insurance companies look at these machinery in different ways. And it depends on your insurance company. So, but they're going to give you a cost per year and just divide it by the hours per year. And again, the number I used was 500 hours per year. So I divided 1,900 by 500 hours, and it came out to $3.80 an hour. Okay. And again, a truck, I didn't put any numbers in there because that just varies too much. Your truck is going to be more of your personal thing. Personal insurance is going to drive your costs for your truck. Property tax is the next one. I'm in Tennessee. Tennessee generally has pretty low taxes, so property taxes in your state or your area are going to vary again. So it's just a matter of talking to the tax people, I guess, and figuring out what your taxes are. Here in Tennessee, we have to list all of our business property every year, and then they tax us a certain percent on it, like 2% or something like that. So I get a tax bill. It depends. Sometimes it's $800, sometimes it's $1,200. It just depends. But again, it's the same thing. It's the total cost per year of the tax that you're going to pay, or that you do pay, over the hours per year. So just taking 1,000, say you pay $1,000 a year in business property tax, divided by, I used 500 hours per year, comes up with $2 per hour. Okay, and do the same thing if you want to add in a vehicle. And this is basically it for owning costs. So then what you do, the last line on this is the total hourly operating cost. So you go through these other 5-6 lines, add up your cost per hour, cost per hours, add them all up, and you're going to get a bottom line number here when you add it all up. And if you're going to add a vehicle, just add this number with your vehicle number, and that'll be your total owning costs. And this is basically it. Just add lines 3B, 4, 5, and 6 together. Okay, and you'll come up with your bottom line hourly costs that are basically going to be your fixed costs for your operation. Okay, and that about completes the owning costs of figuring this out. So I know this kind of stuff is a mystery to people if they've never seen this. Again, all of these are basically the same. This is the basic formula for getting down. You want to boil it down to a cost per hour. Okay, so whatever your costs are, that's what we're trying to do. And again, this is the owning costs, your fixed costs. Whether you use your machine or not, you're going to be paying this every month. So you want to be able to recover, well, not just this cost. It's going to add it to your operating costs also, which is more detailed than the owning costs. And that's about it. There's no more, and I know you're just dying to see more geeky stuff, but that's it. Again, you can go back and look at this video and stop it and copy these down, copy down the formulas, and then you just have to do your homework for each part of this. Insurance costs, that's easy. Once you know the machine you're going to buy. Property tax, go to your tax office and they'll give you an idea of what they charge. Interest, if you're taking a loan, you've got to add your interest in. But remember, if you plan on trading a machine in, don't get freaked out by the total purchase cost, because you will have a residual value or a trade-in that you're going to be getting. So this is the number, the net value. This is the number you want to work with here. Trying to think if there's any other details to talk about with owning costs. So that's about it for that. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment on the bottom of this video. And again, I'll make another video with the operating costs at some time. if I see that there's enough interest in this video, that people are serious and need a good place to start. Again, what we're looking at for Owner-Operator Cost Worksheet are your owner costs, and we just talked about the owner costs, the operating costs, and those are all your parts and consumable liquids, filters, oils, parts, hydraulic lines, or whatever else is involved with your particular machine. I mean, you could be talking about a tractor, lawnmowers, whatever. And your admin costs. Don't forget these things. How much you're going to pay your operator, what kind of profit you want. So when you get in talking about this profit, never forget your profit. You're in business to make a profit. So when you come down to this hourly operating costs, and you complete the worksheet with the or total owning costs. That should have been owning, not operator. Total hourly owning costs. Your profit is built into that number, okay? So anything you make over that, you should be recovering everything that you're paying out of pocket, plus your operator, plus your profit. So if you're making that number, and that's your break-even point, if you're making that break-even point every month, you're making your profit, okay? That's what it comes down to. This is basic kind of business. This whole thing is just a generic kind of business thing, but you can use it for any piece of equipment. Some of these things may relate to your business, some may not. So use what you want out of it. Add to it if you want to. But what I wanted to do is show you, the basic idea of how this is working, okay? So owner-operator costs, know your cost, figure out your break-even point, and then do your homework on your market to see if you have business, if you're using this to get into business. And leasing, owning, taxes, there's a lot of things to consider, but hopefully this will give you some basis of direction if you're totally new to it and just starting out. Hopefully it'll help you out. And again, this is my business, Clevinger Forest Services, and my office phone number. But if you have any other comments that would help others, leave the comments below. I don't mind sharing generic information that I have, and I'm just a guy out here doing work myself, and running a business. So I don't mind helping other guys trying to get out there and in different parts of the country and get something going for themselves. But if this helped you at all, if it gave you some clarity, and you're watching this on YouTube, I just ask that you hit that subscribe button. Do me a solid, because I think I win a cookie at the end of the day. But so that's it. I hope it helped you out. And if you have any questions, shoot them at me. You can find my email address on here, or just hit it up in the comment section, and that'd be great. So good luck to you all out there, and I'll talk to you next time.